Birds were super active this morning and brought me great joy, but I'm always tempted to identify them by their assigned names. Thought it would be a great opportunity to talk about that temptation we have to label everything. It's completely normal for humans to want to label everything. We have big intellectual minds, and we are constantly wanting to learn about our environment and expand our knowledge base. The Buddha warned about the dangers that can be inherent in labeling things. It can really reinforce our attachment to things, or our aversion to things, or delusions that we create by solidifying concepts that are ultimately empty. We also are extremely good at using labels to divide ourselves. There were many suttas that the Buddha discussed labeling things. I think the most appropriate sutta would be the one called the root of all things, which is a description of how ordinary people really misperceive reality by projecting different concepts and labels onto things. The Buddha describes how you could be more enlightened as a being by perceiving things more directly without developing concepts. Because developing concepts and labeling things leads to a lot of distortion of reality, which leads to suffering. Another sutta called the Honeyball Discourse outlines how labeling things is almost like a gateway to letting your mind build a daydream around this conceptualization. And really, they've already proven that the human mind can't really determine if you're truly experiencing the thing or if you are daydreaming that you are experiencing the thing, which is where visualization therapy comes from. Jumping to conclusions is something that we humans do all too often, and the Buddha, over 2,500 years ago, identified that as a root of conflict and causes suffering. In a sutta called the Lesser Discourse on Emptiness, the Buddha actually talks about letting go of fixed views and identities to understand emptiness. In the Asalayana Sutta, the Buddha is tearing down the old Brahmin caste system by explaining that they're socially constructed labels and have no roots in intrinsic qualities. It's a very powerful critique of identity-based labeling, which we all have a terrible problem with nowadays. he emphasizes one's actions, not birth or labels, determine one's spiritual worth. In a sutta called All the Taints, the Buddha discusses how labeling is a part of unwise attention, which helps you build a very strong sense of self, which separates and divides you. This leads to arising of particular views and identities and labels that keep you divided from other people, even divided from the whole world. The powerful critique about conceptual rigidity and how important it is to reject fixed views and labels about existence and non-existence. It teaches the middle way between everything is outside of me and everything is about me. Another really great tool and lesson of Buddhism is the 5 skandhas. One of them is called Samjana Skandha, and it involves the process of identifying things and recognizing things, which would also include labeling them. We assign a label to something, like identifying something as a tree. It also includes subtler forms of perception, like the perception of resistance. Perhaps you don't like trees. Perhaps you love trees. Cool. Samjana is a process of recognition and allows us to categorize objects based on associations and past experiences. It lets us distinguish one thing from another thing and allows us to differentiate, which can cause problems if we get carried away with that sort of thing. Even though it's essential for our interacting with the world and making sense of the experiences that we're having in it. Samjana helps us create our personality and our experiences along with all the other skandhas. And it plays a really crucial role in our sense of self. A good example would be if you were to see a red apple. Samjana is the process by which you recognize it as an apple because of its shape and color and texture, and you associate it with previous experiences you've had with apples. Samjana is the underlying cognitive process that's happening that allows this recognition and labeling to occur. You assign labels to things and then pass judgments or make decisions based on those labels. It kind of goes against one of the biggest concepts in Buddhism, which would be interdependent origination. Nothing in this life forms independently of everything else. And after all, experiencing life at its most basic without processing it through our cognitive human functions is much more of a magical experience than to downgrade the experience through labeling all of it.